Hello everybody and welcome to the weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan, this covering the week of January 29th to February the 4th of 2018. Just like last week, we've only got 3 titles that remain on the list this week, including a brand new number 1. Like I said, it looks like we've got a bunch of new releases coming out, so let's get right into the list. So at number 10, with 5,138 copies sold, Adokenai Hibi wa Meguri. Now, this one is a boy love light novel series. Couldn't find a lot on it. I guess probably just because it's not as big a fan base that it has English translators doing it, or fan translators doing it. So there's just not much on it. However, if you look up the author, there's obviously a pattern to the works that the author writes. So this one, I believe we've had other entries by this same author before in the top 10, but again, it is a boy love type novel. I believe it's sort of like an ongoing series, but I don't think they number it per se. I think they just sort of give it each installment a new title, and that's really all I know about this particular one. At number 9, with 5,383 copies sold, volume number 7 of Ryuo no Oshigoto, aka the Ryuou's Work is Never Done. Now, of course, this is the most recent volume of the Ryuou's Work is Never Done, the series currently airing, an anime version of it airing. And the last couple of weeks, we've had, a good number of volumes sort of hitting into the top 10. This volume, of course, has hung on for a couple of weeks. However, it seems to be having quite a bit of a drop-off. I don't think I know initially when this had 3 titles in the top 10, I compared it to Classroom of the Elite, but at this point, I'd have to say, I think Classroom of the Elite had a little bit more of staying power in terms of rotating various titles through the top 10 over a couple of weeks while the anime was ongoing. This one, of course, as we've discussed before, it is licensed in English. Currently, there's 2 volumes available. You can only buy them in ebook format, and you can only buy them from Bookwalker. Bookwalker, this is one of their exclusive light novel deals where they translate the volumes into English, and for a set span of time, they are the exclusive distributor of the English language version. And then, as far as I understand it, the rights revert back to the original publisher. Bookwalker is going to hand over their translations and then leave it up to the publisher to decide what they want to do with them. At number 8, with 5,482 copies sold, it's actually a brand new volume number 1, and that is Kikan Shita Yuusha no Gojitsudan. This one is also known as the After Story of Homecoming Hero. This is a brand new volume number 1, but this is a series that has had an ongoing web novel. That's actually where I was able to manage to find a synopsis of it. In a fraction of a second, university student Kashiwagi Yuya was summoned to another world and then came back. Time didn't pass in Japan, but Yuya did complete the quest as a hero in another world and successfully returned. But to his surprise, he still retains his powers as a hero. Thus started the unordinary life of a hero in present day. Now, this one actually sounds kind of cool to me. I mean, it's obviously a riff on the whole Isekai genre, but for once, the main focus of the story is on what happens when they come back from another world. This really doesn't seem to be something that I've seen much of, at least it's certainly not titles that have hit the top 10. So this one is kind of, I guess, picking apart. So what happens to you? Like, you go to another world, you become a hero, you become incredibly powerful, and now you return to this world and you're right back to your normal life. In fact, I kind of think it's cool, the mechanic in this, where they're saying that time didn't pass in Japan. So to anybody else, it's like he was never gone, and yet to him, he's now lived this whole other experience and gained these powers. I'm sure that probably the main story is going to be like the other world he was in bleeding into this world. I can't really see how they're going to build a story with just him meandering around the normal world yet being a hero. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But I will at least say with this one, I kind of appreciate that at least it's trying to do something a little bit different with the whole isekai genre and sort of take a different viewpoint on it than like we have predominantly seen. At number 7, with 5,642 copies sold, volume number 6 of Infinite Dendrogram. This one is licensed for English release by J-Novel Club. They'll be releasing volume number 5 in March of 2018, so we're really not that far behind. This will probably be another one of the series that J-Novel Club does where we catch up to the Japanese releases. In the year 2043, Infinite Dendrogram, the world's first successful full-dive VR MMO, was released. In addition to its ability to perfectly simulate the 5 senses, along with its many other amazing features, the game promised to offer players a world full of infinite possibilities. Nearly 2 years later, soon-to-be college freshman Reiji Mukudori is finally able to buy a copy of the game and start playing. With some help from his experienced older brother Shu and his partner Embryo, Reiji embarks on an adventure into the world of Infinite Dendrogram. Just what will he discover and encounter in this game world known for its incredible realism and infinite possibilities? Now, I have read at least volumes 1 and 2 of this one. Actually, I think I did read volume 3 as well. I'm still behind, though. I haven't read volume number 4 yet. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 were actually really quite decent. This series, I would say, is definitely a very strong entry into the VR MMO type genre. And what I've really praised the volumes about so far is their look at sort of the moral ambiguity that occurs when you approach a world as a gamer and purely as a gamer, and the interesting ways that it highlights the differences between people who play the game purely as a gamer with really no conscience whatsoever, other players who approach the world as if it is a living world, and even the NPCs as if they are actual people, and then the people that kind of fall in between all of those things. It's a pretty interesting series and takes a very, very different sort of point of view of the VR MMO experience and gets into a lot of things like politics, and it's actually a really, really cool series, one that I'm hoping to get caught up on. Certainly I want to be able to read volume number 4 before 5 comes out in March, which means I've really got to get on that. But in any case, Infinite Dendrogram, volume number 6, the latest release, available in Japan at number 7. I do recommend you check out the series if you haven't yet. It is really cool, and it's very different from a lot of the other sort of, playing a VR MMO type stories. At number 6, with 5,953 copies sold, Volume 5 of Saikyou Mahoushi no Inton Keikaku, aka The Strongest Mage's Retirement Plan. There's no English license for this series. 100 years ago, demons suddenly appeared and attacked humanity. At that time, normal weapons could not even scratch demons, which caused the human population to decrease drastically. In order to protect themselves, humanity merged into 7 countries. They managed to halt the demons' invasion by their army implementing and using magic, but even now they battle with the demons to ensure the survival of humanity. On the forefront of the battlefield, constantly risking his life, Ars Reagan finished his military duty at the mere age of 16 and requested his retirement. But the country cannot afford to let go of him. This is because among 100,000 mages, Ars stands at the pinnacle of them all as one of the single-digit number single mages. So, not an isekai, sounds like a pure fantasy. This one about, obviously, a teenage boy who's become an incredibly powerful sorcerer mage, and who's looking to get off the front lines and to stop fighting so he can actually live his life. I think this is kind of merging, like, some genres, obviously. I mean, fantasy, isekai have been sort of ongoing genres, but I find that what seems to be becoming more and more popular, and that's hitting the top 10 list, are more sort of war-focused stories, whether they be wars in a fantasy setting or whether they be wars in a sort of alt technology setting. Of course, on the Kono light novel Gasugoi, recently volume number 2 on the, I believe it was the Tankobon list, was 86, which is a very sort of pure, hardcore, like war type light novel, focused obviously in an alternate reality, but nonetheless a book that really takes a look at how governments sort of cover up battle and everything else, and casualties and such. This one, as I said, it sounds kind of interesting to me, at least in that it seems to be blending those fantasy and war genres. The title is a little meh, but at the same time, I mean, if we talk that his retirement plan means successfully conquering the demons, this could be kind of an interesting series. Like I said, at least it's a pure fantasy. It's not like an isekai, but it does sound like it's definitely like an OP fantasy type series. At number 5, with 7,370 copies sold, Volume 8 of Hisshou Dungeon Unei Houhou, aka Certain Victory Dungeon Administration Technique. No English license for this series, and actually volume number 7 appeared on the top 10 when it released. One day, on a sunny leisure day, a woman visited my house and asked me if I was interested in managing a dungeon along with support offered from a goddess. But of course I refused. Eh? I shouldn't ignore a person in trouble? Moreover, if it's a beautiful woman? No way, that's too bothersome. Why do I have to do that? I'm perfectly satisfied with my comfortable life now. Throwing it away is just overly stupid. Fine, so it's go to another world, become a dungeon master, manage a dungeon, and deal with the mana circulation problem. Understood. But how to do it? So this is another entry into a growing genre. Well, I mean, it seems to be growing because I'm seeing more and more of these hit the top 10s. And that is the dungeon management genre. Again, it's a subset usually of isekais, whether it be reincarnation isekais or whether it be just a pure taken to another world type isekai, where essentially the main character is put in charge of a set dungeon that they have to manage and create and everything else. Kind of an interesting take on things. I believe the sort of shtick of this one is that the main character is incredibly lazy and keeps having to try and come up with ways to make the dungeon do work for him so he doesn't have to. At least that's sort of my take on what I saw about this series. If you're familiar with it, feel free to leave that down in the comments down below. Kind of interesting though that we haven't really seen any of these come out in English. As I said, there seems to be more and more of them coming out in Japan. They certainly do seem to be a bit popular. It would be interesting to see, just at the very least, it would be something a little bit different and something done a little bit differently with the isekai genre. I have to admit, like in RPGs and stuff, like games, I always like when you have the mechanic of being able to build your own base or your own dungeon or whatever, and it might be kind of cool to read that in a light novel, but well, I guess I'll see if anybody brings any of those out, whether it's cool or not. But that's the number 5 title. At number 4, with 7,781 copies sold, Volume 9 of Isekai Maou to Shoukan Shoujo no Dorei Majutsu, also known as How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. This one is licensed for English release by J Novel Club. They're bringing out volume number 2 on February 19th. of 2018. There has been an anime production, actually, was just announced in January, but they haven't said exactly when the release date. All they've really done is post a website and a key image, and I think some of the staff names were posted. So still waiting for a lot of information on that hasn't come forward yet. This one about is in the MMORPG Cross Reverie, Takuma Sakamoto is so powerful that he is lauded as the Demon Lord by other players. One day, he is summoned to a world outside his own, but with the same appearance he had in the game. There, he meets two girls who both proclaim themselves to be his summoner. They perform an enslavement ritual to turn him into their summon, but that's when Takuma's passive ability, Magic Reflection, activates. Instead, it is the girls who become enslaved. Though Takuma may be the strongest sorcerer there is, he has no idea how to talk with other people. It is here he makes his choice, to act based on his persona from the game. Amazing? But of course, I am Diablo, the being known and feared as the Demon Lord. So begins a tale of adventure with an earth-shakingly powerful demon lord, or at least someone who acts like one, taking on another world. Now, I read and reviewed volume number 1 of this series. It was alright. I didn't really think there was a lot in it to grab me and sort of say this is something original. The one thing that I was at least happy about was that the whole enslavement thing didn't get taken to uncomfortable extremes. If anything, it was used more as just a vehicle for creating misunderstandings with other characters who assumed that Diablo had done something horrible to these two girls instead of it just being like an accident. So I was at least kind of happy about that. There's definitely a bit of ecchi to the series, and it is most definitely a very OP kind of fantasy series and an isekai. I'm a little curious just to see where volume 2 goes, because the story of volume 2, well, it makes it sound like this could be a slightly different series. I think it's going to be played up more for like comedy and ecchi and stuff like that. Like, I think that's the way that this series is going to go. Definitely kind of a guilty pleasure type series. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But, you know, again, it's one of those series that I think I might read volume 2 just to kind of see how the series progresses. But volume number 1, it was okay. But as I said, it just didn't have anything that was so new or different that it just grabbed me and made me want to keep reading the series forever and ever, or, well, at least until it ends. At number 3, with 8,291 copies sold, volume 27 of Hidan no Aria, or, of course, Aria the Scarlet Ammo. This, of course, was on the list last week. Still not too sure what's going on with the license of this one. It appears that at least the first 2 volumes were released in English, but then the series just died from that point. I don't know what the story is with the company that released it. And that's it. That's all we've got right now for that. I don't know. Even the manga, same company brought out the first like volume or 2, same thing. Just died away, didn't do anything more after that, and it's been years since those were released. So I think it's kind of stuck in limbo in terms of the whole licensing thing. Obviously has a very, very dedicated fan base. I know at least one of you sort of said on the comments the other week, they were like, you know, it's really not that great a series, but man, its fan base is apparently dedicated. So yeah, true enough. At number 2, with 14,268 copies sold, volume 7.5 of Yokuso Jitsuroyoku Shijo Shugi no Kiyoshitsue, or, which always proves to be so much easier to say, Classroom of the Elite. This is a side story volume. It was number 1 last week on the list. Continuing, like I said earlier when I was talking about the Ryuou's work is never done, Classroom of the Elite continues to just do so very well ever since the anime kind of like propelled the series forward and really got a lot of people to buy copies of it and get invested in it. We do not have a license for the light novels, though I know a lot of people are crossing their fingers that that changes sometime this year. They did have a 12-episode anime, as I've stated. It is streaming on Crunchyroll, so you can check that out. There's apparently quite significant changes made in the anime compared to the light novels. So if we ever do get the light novels, it's probably worth your while just to read the light novels starting at number 1, even if you have seen the anime, because clearly there's been lots of changes according to people on the internet who, well, know better than I do. Finally, at number 1, with 16,014 copies sold, volume number 3 of Boku no Hero Academia, Yue Hakusho. Yep, that's right. Hero Academia has a light novel spin-off series. This one, it seems very similar to what we see in a lot of light novel spin-off series, in where these are stories that are just not told either in the manga. I'm not sure if the anime used the first 2 volumes of this for any source material. I haven't actually watched the anime. I know it's terrible of me, but that's just the way it is. I haven't. The anime does have, like, what, 38 episodes. They are all streaming on Crunchyroll. This, of course, is originally a manga series. In terms of the light novels, the original mangaka who created Hero Academia, he is doing the artwork for the light novel, but he's not actually writing it. In fact, the author who's writing it, I really couldn't find a whole lot of information on. So I don't know if this is sort of a newer work or what exactly the story is with this particular author. In terms of what the series is about, on an Earth-like world where people with superpowers known as quirks are the norm, Izuku Midoriya is a regular middle school student who has dreams of one day becoming a hero, despite being bullied by his classmates for not having a quirk. After being the only one to try and save his childhood bully, Katsuki, from a villain, the world's greatest hero, All Might, bestows upon him his own quirk, one for all. The story follows Izuku's entrance into UA High School, a school that cultivates the next generation of superheroes. So, of course, this is a really, really popular series. I don't really need to tell any of you that. I'm pretty sure you all know. Kind of funny, like Crunchyroll's Anime Awards for 2017, almost every category has a Hero Academia in there. So, really popular series. Gotten a lot of good sort of press and everything else. Everybody seems to really enjoy it. So, and obviously has had that success carry over into the light novel realm as well. I'd like to say a special thanks to Kidong Gayen, Ola OJ the Bull, and Jean-Luc Chartier for all their help on Patreon, and to all the rest of my patrons on Patreon. Their assistance is really helping me to grow this channel and to explore other new and exciting ideas, all to help advance light novel fandom. So those are your top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan for the week of January 29th to February 4th of 2018. I'll be back here next week, counting down the list again, seeing which titles have managed to survive and stay in the top 10, and what brand new titles have come in and replaced all the rest of them. So if you're brand new to the channel and you love light novels, you should consider subscribing. I do this countdown every single week, as well as reviewing 2 to 3 light novels a week as well. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.